Amara Carter joined the cheer squad with hope, but it turned into her public shame. Mocked, excluded, and humiliated in front of the crowd, she was told without words she didn't belong. But what her bullies didn't know was that her father's power would soon shatter their illusion of control. Watch how one girl's pain became a turning point. Stay tuned, comment your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe. Amara Carter was never the type to draw attention to herself. She was quiet, focused, and carried the weight of dreams far larger than her small suburban town could ever imagine. For her, making the cheerleading team wasn't about popularity or spotlight. It was about proving that she belonged, that she could stand shoulder to shoulder with those who had tried for years to keep girls like her out. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the moment she stepped onto that squad, she wasn't just stepping into a sport. She was stepping straight into a storm. A storm built from whispers, envy, and something far darker than competition. Because when she joined the team, some of her peers didn't just see a new cheerleader. They saw someone who didn't belong. And the lengths they would go to remind her of that would shatter more than just routines. It would expose a truth most people in her town preferred to ignore. The question wasn't whether Amara would survive the season. It was whether she would survive the hatred hiding in plain sight. Amara's life before the squad was simple, grounded, and full of quiet strength. She lived with her father, Marcus Carter, a man who balanced stern discipline with a deep, unwavering love. Marcus wasn't just a father. He was a protector, the kind of man who had built his career on truth, integrity, and justice. What most people didn't know, what Amara rarely mentioned, was that her father was no ordinary man. Marcus was the director of the FBI. For years, he had fought to uphold the law, uncovering corruption and pursuing justice in some of the nation's darkest cases. Yet, despite his power and influence, Marcus knew that his title could not shield his daughter from the ugliness of prejudice. At school, Amara was known for her quiet confidence. She wasn't flashy or boastful, but when she moved, whether in the classroom or on the cheer mat, people noticed. Her acceptance onto the cheer squad should have been a moment of joy, a celebration of her talent and hard work. But instead, it was met with glares, hushed comments, and an icy silence that clung to her like a shadow. The squad had always been a tight circle, and now, to many of the girls, she was the outsider, the one who had broken through their unspoken barrier. Amara tried to focus on the routines, on the rhythm of the chants and the precision of the moves, but she couldn't ignore the subtle ways her teammates excluded her. They left her out of group chats, withheld important practice details, and exchanged looks that said more than words ever could. And yet, Amara held on. She smiled when she felt like crying, worked twice as hard when others slacked off, and reminded herself that quitting would only prove them right. She didn't know it yet, but the storm was building. What began as whispers would soon turn into actions. Actions designed not just to push her away, but to break her. The tension in the air was thick, but beneath it all, there was one thing Amara couldn't see. The moment when resentment would tip into cruelty. And when it did, it would change everything. The first signs of hostility came quietly, almost like background noise she thought she could ignore. A missing uniform piece here, a forgotten text about a practice schedule there. At first, Amara brushed it off as mistakes. After all, everyone got things mixed up sometimes. But soon, the pattern was undeniable. When the squad gathered in the locker room, conversations would stop the moment she walked in. When she spoke, her voice was met with silence, her suggestions ignored as though she wasn't even there. But it wasn't just about exclusion. It was about erasure. During halftime routines, the formations shifted ever so slightly, leaving Amara pushed to the edge, as if she didn't belong in the center of their circle. And when the team posed for pictures after games, somehow, she always ended up cropped out of the final posts that went online. The message was clear. She was there, but she wasn't welcome. Then came the night of the championship game. The air was electric. The stands packed with parents, classmates, and community members who had come to watch the squad perform. For Amara, it was supposed to be her moment, a chance to prove, once and for all, that she deserved to be there. She took her position at the base of the pyramid, heart pounding, every muscle ready for the lift. But as the stunt began, something felt wrong. The grip on her foot was looser than usual, the timing off. She tried to steady herself, trusting her teammates to hold her. And then, in one horrifying second, the hands that should have caught her slipped away. Amara fell. The world tilted, the crowd gasped, and she crashed onto the mat with a sickening thud. Pain shot through her shoulder, white-hot and blinding. The cheer music continued. The routine went on, but for Amara, everything froze. Above her, she caught a glimpse of her teammates' faces, some shocked, others smirking, none reaching out to help her. In that instant, she knew. This hadn't been an accident. It had been planned. The fall didn't just break her body, it shattered her trust. As she lay there, staring up at the blinding lights of the gym, the reality sank in. She had been targeted, set up to fail, not because of her talent, but because of her skin. And as the crowd erupted in confusion, phones capturing every moment, Amara realized that what had just happened was bigger than her. It was a story about more than one girl on one team. It was about a system of cruelty that thrived in silence. Mara spent the next few weeks in recovery, her shoulder in a sling, her body healing. But her spirit weighed down by something much heavier. The fall had left bruises, but it was the betrayal, the deliberate cruelty, that carved deeper wounds. Nights were restless, haunted by the memory of the smirk on her teammate's face, the silence of those who stood by, and the sting of being seen as expendable simply because of who she was. At school, the whispers never stopped. Some students mocked her, calling her fragile, while others pretended nothing had happened at all. The administration issued statements about safety and accidents, carefully avoiding the truth. But beneath the surface, the story was spreading. The videos from that night had gone viral, not because Amara had fallen, but because of what people noticed when they slowed the footage down. The hesitation, the intentional shift, the way her teammates had let her slip. The truth was undeniable now, captured in pixels for the world to see. Marcus Carter had spent his life investigating lies, uncovering patterns others tried to bury. But nothing had prepared him for watching his daughter become evidence of the same systemic cruelty he had fought against in his career. He pressed for accountability, demanded an investigation, and confronted the school board. What he encountered wasn't just resistance. It was the same wall of silence that protected discrimination everywhere. Excuses, deflections, and the hope that time would bury the outrage. But Amara refused to be silent. With her father's support, she spoke out. She told her story, at assemblies, in interviews, in community forums. Her voice trembled at first, but with every word, she grew stronger. She wasn't just a cheerleader anymore. She had become a symbol, a reminder that racism wasn't always shouted in the streets. It was whispered in locker rooms, masked as accidents, hidden behind smiles that never reached the eyes. The impact spread far beyond her school. Parents began to question what was happening on their own children's teams. Other students, emboldened by Amara's courage, came forward with stories of exclusion and discrimination. What had been one girl's fall became a spotlight on an entire system of silent complicity. For Amara, the journey wasn't easy. She still carried scars, both seen and unseen. But she carried them with pride, as proof that she had survived what was meant to break her. She learned that resilience wasn't about pretending the pain didn't exist. It was about facing it, naming it, and refusing to let it define her future. And for Marcus, watching his daughter rise from that field became a defining moment of its own. He realized that protecting her wasn't just about shielding her from harm. It was about standing beside her as she transformed her pain into power. In that, he saw the reflection of a larger fight, one that had stretched across generations. The struggle of Black families everywhere who endure, resist, and rise in the face of injustice. Because this story isn't just about one cheerleader or one school, it's about the millions of small, quiet acts of racism that add up to something much larger. It's about how silence protects cruelty, how prejudice hides in plain sight, and how courage, even from one young girl, can spark change. Amara made it through that night, but not unchanged. Her fall didn't break her. It built her into something stronger, something undeniable. The question is, how many more Amaras must fall before the world finally learns to catch them? So now, it's on us, the viewers, the witnesses, to ask ourselves, will we be silent bystanders, or will we be the ones who refuse to look away? Because the next story, like Amara's, isn't a question of if, it's a question of when.